Hello and welcome to another episode of Coaches Helping Coaches and other professionals providing value to us building our business. We're running those videos to provide value to the coaching community. There's a lot of information out there, and sometimes you don't know what to follow. And the attempt of this channel is to invite people who had success building their business and learn from them. Today, I'm privileged to be joined by Jachym Jerie, who is my former coach, mentor, somebody I worked with over a year, who has, I would say, different points of views. We had Jesse last time on one of those interviews, and this time Jachym, and I'm loving the different approaches. Sometimes when we look to grow our business, we believe that there is a one size fit all approach to doing that. And what I learned from Jachym, what I got to experience in our work together was very different than a lot of the other things I read, I listened to. And Jachym, you've been a coach. Right now, you went into business. You run a restaurant or two or three. I don't know how
Yeah,
many it is by now. Yeah.
yeah. I've done various business ventures on the side as well, and I've done hypnosis before coaching. But I've been in the change work profession for about a decade.
Yeah. And you've introduced me to various forms of meditation on top of that, introspection. And really, I felt like we were scientists dissecting my mind sometimes. And that's really the clarity that you gave me in a lot of introspective work that has greatly influenced how I showed up to my life, to problems, to identity issues, insecurities I had. I contribute a lot of the early success I had in my business towards the work that we ran together. So without further ado, I want to give you the chance to say anything I missed. And yeah.
Nothing you missed. It's been a pleasure working with you, and it's really awesome to see you flourish, in your business and the impact that you're having with the people. So really well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Jachym, just before we started the recording, I asked you what you would love to talk about. Already there, like we looked at, hey, that might be a different viewpoint. And what I want to provide on this channel is to have not like one way to do things, but really learn from different people that all in their own way had success doing what they do. And I'd love to just jump right in to what we were talking about before, and anything you want to share that you think is useful to an audience of early coaches or some more professional, like experienced coaches that already have success in their business but want to take it a step deeper.
Awesome. So before I get started on it, I just want to make sure that we frame it correctly. My point of view is a point of view. It is not the A and B all. So be aware of that. And also, what I'll be talking about is more about the inner work stuff that I believe is useful for pretty much anything in life, really. But it is just one side of the equation. Okay, if you want to have a flourishing coaching practice, what will make a difference, without a doubt, is you going and doing stuff. Okay. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're hearing people about, I don't know, being aligned or being different or doing X, Y, Z, doing inner work, blah. If you're taking that and you're like, okay, I need to do all of that stuff, and you have a whole to-do list on the inner work side, and you have nothing on the other side of outward action, going up, having conversations with people, you're not going to create the coaching practice you're looking for. Okay. I have worked with coaches in the past. They're like, you just need to decide on, the side where you do the inner work. And if you do that, the other thing will take care of itself. In my experience, that's not the case. Okay. You need both, and they are both useful. However, when I'm objectively looking at the coaching field, I see people who have probably not done that much inner work, yet they are quite successful in the coaching terms because they have created healthy habits of creating a coaching practice with actions, with showing up, with doing the work, no matter what. Okay. So I want to make sure that you're clear on that, so that when you're listening to this or you're listening to other people, whatever, make sure you implement and you take action. Okay, there's nothing that's going to replace having conversation with people, going to events, doing your social media, whatever it is, whatever strategy you're running, however you're creating your coaching practice. But you need to do that stuff that's actually going to get you results. And sitting at home doing all kinds of inner work is not going to. I've not heard of anyone who sat at home and then suddenly there was a lineup outside of the door and said, "We were all sent here by the universe, and we want to work with you." I have not experienced that. I have not heard of any of that. Anyone who has talked about it, they usually had some kind of network or something, and there's synchronicities or whatever, but they were out in the world. They weren't just like in their room. So just make sure that This is a really crucial point because you can easily get lost in this inner work kind of stuff. Okay.
I can so attest to that. I've sometimes been the person sitting in my room doing the inner work and kind of believing that if I do it enough, people will just show up. And it never happened that way.
Right. So for me, it didn't happen that way either. And I have not really convincingly heard anyone of where it happened. So that's why I want to put it out there, because it can be a bit of a rabbit hole, and make sure that if you are sitting down to work on your business, you work on your business. Okay. Working on yourself can enhance your business. It's not the same thing. Okay. Really important distinction. I want to make sure people really get that.
Yeah.
So with that said, the one thing that I have found really helpful in terms of, or have seen being helpful for people as well in terms of coaching, is starting to realize that coaching isn't about you. And the reason I'm saying that is because so many messages are out there. Sometimes it's just because how our language is built. It's always about the coach. Okay, you need to be different. You need to show up different. You need to provide value. It's you. It's all about me. Oh my God, I need to be this person. And what I want to say is the message often underlying that is often helpful. However, the way it's phrased or the way the language is flowing, because we always have a subject and object in the language, obviously, right? It can then become internalized and be like, okay, it is me, there's an I, and I need to be different. And on top of that, I don't feel enough and I don't feel good enough. And now I need to change all of that and I need to change myself. And this feels really freaking scary. Not helpful. Really not helpful, because then you start to get in your head about, oh my God, okay, how am I going to do all this? And I need to be different, right? And I make my commitments and I do this and whatever. But you really still under the impression that there is this me inside of me that has to be now to be different. And of course, we probably don't have time on this call because there is a rather an in-depth exploration around this whole topic. But when you actually start to question the assumption of a me and an I and what that actually is, you will start to come up empty-handed. Because when you look for it, you can say, okay, well, I'm my body. I'll do this just briefly, just so as a kind of, so people are on the same page, somewhat on the same page. You can say, well, it's this body. Well, okay, so you lose your hand, you're still you, but your body doesn't have a hand, right? So you're not your hand, and you can go through the body and you can lose certain parts and whatever. And you don't want to get too intellectual where it's like, well, if my brain is being taken out, I'm not here anymore, or, something like that. It gets too abstract. You want to stay more in the direct experience and seeing that you have attached meaning to phenomena that you're observing. The body is a phenomenon that you're observing. You can notice the sensations in your hands, in your feet. You can notice the breath sensations. You can hear your voice. You can see things, right? Those are all phenomena that you're observing. And you have solidified one phenomena and you're attaching meaning to it, which is called me and I and self, right? So just as a sliver, so we are on that. Now, when you are saying, okay, I need to be different, because if I'm being different, then I'm going to attract different clients. I'm going to show up differently. What are we actually talking about? If we are going from the assumption that there really is not a me, right? And if you haven't done this investigation, that's fine. You can just listen to it and take it with a grain of salt and be open to exploring that. So if there's not a me here, what am I actually talking about when I'm saying you need to be different? You need to show up different. What is that? So, well, we are observing phenomena, and one of phenomena is that I have speech, right? So being different could be talking differently. I have a body, so how I'm carrying myself, how the body is carrying itself can be something, right? The way I'm thinking, that's another phenomena you can observe, right? And so you can start to see, well, there's expressions of the mind that are useful, and there are expressions of the mind that are not useful, but they're just habits of mind. There's nothing solid about that. They show up and they disappear. They show up and they disappear, right? So for example, someone asks you, what are you doing for a living? And you're getting insecure. In that moment, your mind is producing something that is called insecurities. And that's it. There's no me, I'm so insecure. You can say I'm insecure. You can think you're insecure, but that's just a manifestation. Conversation ends. You go on about your life. That part is gone. It's gone. It's not permanent. There's nothing permanent here. But because the next time someone asks you what you're doing for your living and you're all getting insecure, you're like, well, this is a thing, it's permanent. Every time someone asks, it's here. But all this time in between, it wasn't here, right? And so when you're talking about being different, what I find useful is actually seeing these habits of mind that show up that are not useful for my business or my relationships or for whatever else I'm doing, weight loss or whatever. So I can see that there's various habits of mind that sometimes work together and support each other in kind of a network structure that are not helping me create results in the way I want to create results. But if you look at it that way, then all you need to do, it's just a question of how do I change this habit of mind? How do I change this manifestation that seems to be occurring? Now, I say seems to be occurring because we often label a variety of experiences, let's say insecurity about your work, we label that as one thing. So we put a label on it and we box it together. And now it's one thing. But actually, when you were to look at it, again, like, with the me and the self being a solid concept and something that's real, your insecurity about whatever it is not always the same. Sometimes it's stronger, sometimes it's less strong, sometimes one aspect is stronger, sometimes another aspect is stronger. So you have a fluctuation of when you work to actually be real and not get stuck in your conceptual ideas, you start to see, hey, they are different manifestations. So even this thing called habit of mind, it shows up differently each time. But because you've labeled it and packaged it together, it's one thing. And now it's this huge problem. So I'm mentioning that because we want to start loosening those conceptual ideas, because then it's less overwhelming. Before it's like this block of I need to be different, or my insecurity needs to go or change or whatever. And now it's more like what is actually happening in this very moment. Someone is asking me about what I do for a living and I feel insecurity showing up. How do I know that? How does it show up? Well, okay, I feel tightness in my stomach. I feel a bit hunched forward. My mind is spinning a little bit. Don't know what to say. Those are our manifestations. And so now that you have the awareness of it, you can actually do something about it. But you don't have the awareness when you keep it in a package, because it's this thing. So in the moment, when you stop taking it into a package and you're real with yourself, then you have the ability to do actually something about it. Now, we can go, if that's useful, we could go into what you can do about it, but I'm going to give it to you again, Moritz, to make sure I've not lost the listener along the way, if anything needs to be clarified or whatever, wherever you want to take it.
For me, that was perfect. I feel tempted to say something there, so I'm going to do that. In my work with coaches and other professionals, what I often find is there's a solidified idea about how this person is. And when I go into an investigation, I like to do it very practically. Like somebody's telling me, I had a person telling me, I feel so insecure about doing an online course, running an online course. I'm not comfortable with Zoom and all of that. And I asked this person, how many times have you done it before? And the person said, never, right? More often than not, when I investigate ideas that we have that seem to be limiting us, and I were to look at it from a very simplistic frame of how many times have you done it? And is your expectation of being good at it after 2 times, is that real? Like, is that valid? Would you do that? Would you expect somebody, I don't know, you go to the gym 2 times and then you're like, yeah, I should be able to lift double the weight that I lifted first time going there. You're like, no, that's not really realistic. So when I started for myself dissecting those ideas, and that's kind of how I came into this work of being different, was to see like everything that I had produced before, of the struggling coach that I assumed myself to be sometimes, the insecure coach, or like, oh, I can't charge this kind of money coach. It was all attached with like a storyline of meaning that I made about feelings I had or sensations I had in the moment that I talked about price, in the moment that I put myself out on social media, in the moment that I would talk to somebody, let's say professional CEO, somebody else, and I created this idea like, oh, I haven't worked with them, so I don't know how to work with them. I'm not good enough as a coach. Like, it was this storyline created. And what I saw through the work that we did was that's just optional. Like, it's all optional storylines, optional patterns of mind that could be changed, because they have changed. Like, if I do the investigation over my lifetime, I see myself probably so different than I saw myself 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, even 1 year ago. But I don't notice, because my experience of self is always in the moment with whatever shows up. And it seems like a sensible narrative in the past. But if I look at it closely and I really examine, like, what am I thinking today? And next time I do a client call, and next time, then I see like it's not permanent. Like, one time I'm feeling super confident, one time I'm not, one time I'm here, one time I'm there, one time I'm feeling like, oh, I can do everything. Next time I don't feel it. So the investigation for me had done a lot of things well, in the terms of being able to create a practice not based on the fluctuation of my mind, but more based on okay, what's the system I'm going to use? What are simple steps? Like, is it realistic? Like, we're launching a new program. Probably there are going to be moments when I don't know what to do. There are going to be moments when I don't know what to say. So what can I do in preparation? A lot of things. So now I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's kind of what came to mind when I listened to you, how useful that exploration actually is when you start separating the sense of this is me, and you look at it more from the perspective of like, that's a habit showing up. That's a habit. That's a pattern my brain created. That's a habit of mine. That's a habit of speaking, and it can be changed.
Absolutely. And, for me, what comes to mind is almost like you want to, hike up a mountain or something like that. And you're thinking about, well, can I do this? Am I good enough for this? And whatever. And you're creating all this kind of meaning around it. Well, what's going to make a difference is taking the first step and then the next step. And then you'll take the next step. And so when you have less of that meaning making, or you buy less into it, of that meaning making, it's simply just take the next step. Because that's all you need to know is just the next step. You don't need to know the entire route. You just need to take the next step. So just take the next step. That's it, And so that's why it's so crucial, because it's almost like a wheel, it clouds our eyes and we don't see, and we start to spin our wheels. But what's in front of us? What's here now? That's what's going to make a difference, is being here now. Being somewhere in your mind, insecure about yourself and whatever, that's not here now. I mean, it is here now in your mind. And yes, there's value of looking at that and all of that. But in terms of creating coaching practice, just take the next step. It's just one step at a time. That's it. And that's why this is so important, to start looking at that. What is the mechanism that keeps pulling you away, that keeps pulling you to la la land, and that prevents you from actually just doing the step? And a remedy can be as simple as, I'm just going to take the next step. I'm not even going to explore the self and all this kind of stuff. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to take the next step that I believe is going to make a difference.
Yeah. What have you found to be useful in your own journey of striking the balance between like inner exploration and outer action in building your businesses and running your coaching practice?
So I believe that the inner work is way overemphasized a lot of times. I mean, it is, in one way, I do agree, it is absolutely vital, especially if you want to have a happy life. Like, you want to have a happy life, you need to do the inner work. There's no freaking way around it. Now, most people think, I'm going to create a business and I'll be happy. No, just no. You can look at a bunch of successful people who are at the pinnacle in their respective field, and some of them are freaking miserable. Like, really miserable, because they're supposed to be happy and they're not happy. And they're supposed to be happy because they think they would be happy if they reach that. So if you want to have a happy life, yes, you got to do the inner work. There's no other way around that. If you want to create clients, a certain lifestyle, money, or whatever, you got to take the action. Now, you can combine both, yes, but in terms of the balance, like 90% needs to be on the action for doing that stuff. You need to just take action. But if you are doing the action with the hopes that it will fix you, with the hopes that you'll be happy, man, you're barking up the wrong tree. You're barking up the wrong tree, like, really, really badly. And it's unfortunate because it is perpetuated in society with our marketing. I'm living the perfect computer lifestyle. I'm having the most sexy body ever. I'm getting all the girls, I'm getting all the men, whatever it is, I'm having all this money. And people associate with that happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment. It's just utterly wrong. It is totally, totally wrong. There's not even there's no debate around that for me. Yes, you having a certain income, like, let's say if you're living at the absolute minimum and you start making some more income, yes, it can contribute to your well-being for sure. But at some point, you try to get more. No, and there's even studies around that. Like, I'm not making this up, but it's really, really, really important. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Are you building a business, a coaching business, because you think you're going to be happier, going to be more fulfilled? Yes, it may be a contributing factor if you're doing something that's really not a fit for you right now. But if you're doing it, like, happiness and fulfillment, you got to separate those two things. That's my point of view.
What would you say? Let's say there is a coach out there. They have created some level of success. Let's say they're getting around 6 figures of income, which I believe is kind of the pivoting point of getting out of this minimum bracket. And you get in there, you're having like maybe multiple 6 figures of revenue coming in. So you really, in most European countries, and I think also in the US, you could pay a pretty good lifestyle. And they find themselves like, oh shit, like I've been in the hamster wheel, I've taken a lot of action, and now I don't feel any different. What would you suggest to a person in that position if they want to get to more fulfillment in their lives? Like, satisfaction and fulfillment in their life.
Right, right. Well, the very first thing I suggest is to stop buying into the idea that some goal you're going to achieve is going to give you that fulfillment. Mm-hmm. That's an absolute first step. You got to start realizing that is not going to happen because you have done it already. You have had your goal of 6 figures. You could reach the goal of 6 figures. Are you happy? No. Maybe you increase that 6 figure to multiple 6 figures, to a car, to whatever it is. You have looked at your life and see how many times you have set goals with the idea, maybe hidden expectation, not over, that this is going to bring you the fulfillment. Now, if you're going to keep doing that, you're going to get the same result. You're not going to get what you're looking for. So you got to look in a different direction. You cannot keep going to the same direction expecting a different result. So that's absolutely number one. And then number two is to actually focus on yourself. So what is happening within you that you're unhappy? How are you creating unhappiness right now? Because what I've noticed that a lot of people who are fairly driven, they have a deficiency story. I'm not good enough, so I need to prove myself. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to work really hard, but still not enough. But the deficiency is not in whatever they are succeeding. It in deficiencies is them not actually looking at themselves and being there for themselves and allowing themselves to feel and be with what actually is there. So they run away, right? Keep going out. You got to stop, and you got to look what you're running away from, how you're creating unhappiness right now. These are all things to explore.
Yeah.
Because you can notice, I mean, even if you actually pay attention to someone who's unhappy, you will have moments of maybe brief moments of happiness or brief moments of stillness. So what happened that moment turned to unhappiness? What did the mind do? You need to start to uncover those mechanisms.
Yeah, it's fitting very well with the experience that I have with myself or also with the people that I work with. It's like any idea turned to when I'm there, then I will inevitably lead to trying to get there and the pursuit of happiness in itself can be a guarantee for not getting it or not experiencing it. Yeah.
Yep. So if that would be the case, then it would be a question of, okay, can you be with what is? Right. So I'm pursuing happiness. So what is right now, which is unhappiness or dissatisfaction, is not okay. There's a sense of not okay and I need to have it gone. I need to change it. But what if you don't? What if you can just have it and be with it and let it be there? Because when you actually start doing this work, you will start noticing how the mind, how there's different processes working against each other. So there's a process that gives a feeling of dissatisfaction, unhappiness. And then there can be another process of judging that. And another process of trying to get away. Another process of, so there's all those different processes that start to bubble up and they do their thing, but you're not aware of them. So you got to start becoming aware of them. That's what brings alignment within the system. Because your mind, again, as I'm saying, mind in quotes, because you don't know, the mind it's not that thing. There's those processes that are happening. So you need to start to untangle them. And when you bring that awareness, then the system starts to naturally start aligning itself more. Because every part becomes more aware of each other.
Let's say somebody's listening to us and this conversation, and they find themselves in either of one of the brackets, like, oh, I've done a lot of inner work, but I don't take the action, and they now feel like invited to take some action. Or the other side of people that realize, wow, I'm, I think if I get more clients, if I get this, if I get that, then I will actually feel more complete within myself. And they recognize, hey, I would love to do something that Jachym is talking about, like start to untangle that, become aware of that, work towards alignment, not from the sense of I'm not good where I am, out of curiosity, being like, how would that look like? How can I become more aware? What's that like? What would you suggest to somebody? Where can they look? Where to start?
Right. So, I mean, it's not an easy question to answer because I don't have there is somewhere maybe you can put it in the show notes. There's somewhere a course from a person I'm working with right now. She does a lot of awareness practice and has a course around that. So that might be helpful. The reason I'm saying it's not so easy to otherwise point to people to other kind of resources, because a lot of resources are, they are a lot on doing in terms of they're often quite narrow. So for example, I love the work from Byron Katie. Like that's a useful tool. I can recommend that. And that's one way that you could look at, okay, my mind's creating unhappy thoughts and I'm starting believing them, and that's how I get unhappy. Or I have a certain thoughts that stop me from taking action. You can question them, though. Yes, you can do that, but still just go and do the action. Like it's really, you just need to start taking the action. But so that system is a useful system. But what I found in terms of myself, what has made the biggest difference in my life is literally just practicing simply being aware. And let me qualify the statement. Being aware means the knowing quality of mind. So when you go throughout your life, you go and drive a car and you were lost in thought. You weren't aware in that way. That knowing quality wasn't there. But then you wake up. It's almost like a wake up. You're like, oh, right, I'm at the red light, or I have arrived home. And you're like, oh, maybe you didn't know how you get there. But that at that moment, that knowing quality is more online. So you want to strengthen that knowing quality. That is what you want to do. And you want to do it through positive reinforcement. So every time you become aware that what's going on right now, you want to smile, you want to celebrate, you want to be grateful for that. So you want to positively reinforce it, because that is what's going to build the habit. It does take a little bit of persistence. It's fairly simple. It's not very difficult. But often what happens is people are used to, trying to get things done. And so they're trying to make themselves aware. And that's not going to happen. You don't have complete, like over attention, you have conscious control. I can direct my attention over there. I can attention over there. I can direct attention to my foot. With awareness, at least at the beginning, you don't have much conscious control over it. It kind of just happens. And so that's why it's a bit of an unconscious process. And so you can't make it happen. And people get frustrated. Well, I'm not aware enough. But actually what needs to happen is keep needing to just reinforce the behavior you want to see. Oh, I'm aware. Great. Fantastic. Can I stay a little bit longer aware? Oh, I'm still aware. Fantastic. Or I was lost. I'm aware again. Fantastic. That's it. Because people often get like, oh, I was lost. Oh my God. I screwed up, blah, blah, blah. And it reinforces the thing you don't want to have. You can be, oh, right, there's all this judgment. Great, I'm aware of this judgment. So positive reinforcing that is really useful. And you want to do that throughout your day, every single day. And I found that profoundly helpful in changing patterns. I've seen it also in clients that I've taught this to. With certain one person I worked with had a bad case of revenge procrastination. So they'd end up going to bed very late in the morning because they would just consume in the evening. I did not have a single session around it. And it just disappeared just by them doing this kind of practice. So it can really have a profound effect on the system, create changes at a level that, you don't need to talk about it, because just something deeper sees it, So that is a very powerful practice and underemphasized, even in the meditation community. A lot of in the meditation community is a lot on attention. Strengthening the attention, having stable attention. But what's important is the greater perspective. It's the awareness. It's that knowing quality. The knowing quality can know what the attention is doing. So attention can be very focused. You can see the switching of attention. So they're two different things, but you want to strengthen that bigger quality. Mm-hmm. Sorry if I lost anyone here. It's rather technical.
Yeah. And I can attest to its strength. I stopped smoking. First of all, I tried various things, not buying cigarettes anymore, all of the different things. And by doing this practice around it and just becoming aware of what's actually happening before I go and smoke a cigarette, we stopped talking about it in our process together. And I think a couple of weeks after we finished, it just went away. I didn't do anything in particular. I didn't even say, oh, now I gotta stop and I'm committing myself to stop it, or like I'm gonna be a non-smoker, which kind of happened. Like the identity of being a smoker also faded away, like the strength of that. But that was all by becoming aware of the drivers. So if anyone wants to stop smoking, look into what Jachym is talking about here. No promises. That's been a very interesting conversation, at least for me, and I believe for any other listener. To me, this is a conversation to be had about really getting deep into the inner work in a different way than you might have before. My experience has been very different than with a lot of other coachings I've done. Which is not to say either is good or bad. I get value from all of them. And that's really what I want to provide on this channel. So thank you so much, Jachym, for sharing your perspective. And my question to you is like, if anyone is interested in knowing more about this, can they reach out to you? Are you at all reachable or totally into different businesses now?
Well, so I am not actively coaching at the moment. You can reach out. You can reach me on Facebook. I think there's only one with this name on there. So just send me a message. I might get back to you. I'm not at the moment actively in coaching. Sometimes do take a client on here and there, but I am focusing on other aspects, mainly trading at the moment, which is more suitable for my current life circumstances. So yeah, cool. No promises that I'll work with you if you do reach out.
Very clear. Thank you, Jachym. Thank you so much for this conversation. And for anyone listening, if you want to see more, hear more of those kinds of interviews that I do with other coaches, with people in this profession, with people in related professions, then check out the channel, give it a like, place a comment, and I'll see you next time.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.